Afternoon, everybody. How's everybody? Are you good?
Good.
Okay, excellent. Welcome. You are, no, I'm going to tell you who I am first, and then I'm going to ask you to tell me who you are. So we're the judges. My name is Jack Barlow. I am a professor of politics at Juniata College in Pennsylvania. And my colleagues here are Dr. Allison.
Well, in the scheme of things, I would normally be the next one. You just tried to throw him off, is what happened. My name is Lindsay Draper. I'm retired from the juvenile court bench here in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. And my recollection is this is a relatively new program that you all are a part of, and I am just really thrilled to see you.
And I am Robert Allison. I teach history at Suffolk University, which is in Boston. I'm also delighted to be here and pay no attention to the fact that I couldn't find the unmute button or that Mr. Barlow forgot what order we were doing things. We actually have done this before, and we actually very much are looking forward to having a conversation with you about the Constitution.
This is what happens to old people when it gets to be nap time in the afternoon, you know? Well, thank you all for being here. If you would introduce yourselves and your teacher, please, and tell us where you're from in Illinois.
Hi, we're excited to testify for you today. My name is Vanessa Puentes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Lonnie Torres. We are coached by our teacher, Mr. Zach Maslenko. We are from Chicago, Illinois, and we represent Chicago Hope Academy.
Excellent. Well, thank you. As someone who knew Chief Justice Burger and knew that he was committed to equal opportunity, I think it's great that we're reaching out to schools like yours, and I'm glad that you're here. So we are looking forward to a conversation about Unit 2, and Unit 2 is how did the framers create the Constitution? So I will read the question and we will get started. One founder claimed that representatives should, quote, refine and enlarge the public views by passing them through the medium of a chosen body of citizens whose wisdom may best discern the true interest of their country. Do you agree or disagree with this claim? What alternative systems of representation were considered by the founders? What alternative systems of representation, if any, should be considered in the 21st century? Please begin.
We agree with this claim. The bicameral legislature of the United States represents the diverse interests of the nation. It prevents laws that would favor certain parties or groups of people by enforcing the Constitution system of checks and balances. The use of a bicameral legislature is a natural extension of the framers' concept of separation of powers. In Federalist 10, Madison states, you take in a greater variety of parties and interests, you make it less probable that a majority of the whole will have a common motive to invade the right of other citizens, or if such a common motive exists. It will be more difficult for all who feel it to discover their own strength and to act in unison. The Constitution reflects this in its purpose to divide power equally in order to properly represent the people. After months of debate, delegates arrived at the Great Compromise, where large states got proportional representation based on population in the House of Representatives, and smaller states got equal representation in the Senate. When considering a bill, each member of the House focuses on how the bill impacts their legislative district, while senators focus on how the bill impacts their state and the nation as a whole. Therefore, it is best that we leave it to the people whose wisdom may best recognize the true interests of the country, opposed to legislators making selfish decisions for their own partisan interests. This is just as
Okay. Alternative systems of representation that were taken into consideration were the Virginia, New Jersey, Hamilton, and Pinckney Plan. Under the Virginia Plan, states are represented based on population and argues a bicameral legislature and 3 branches of government. Under the New Jersey Plan, regardless of size, will have 1 vote. Like the Virginia Plan, it falls under 3 branches of government, but the legislator would have more power. Hamilton had his own idea. He felt that the New Jersey Plan reflected the failed Articles of Confederation. He also argued that the Virginia Plan didn't go far enough to fix the failures made by the Articles of Confederation. Hamilton's plan argued for a bicameral Congress in which representatives in the Assembly would be elected directly by the people and members of Senate would be appointed by electors chosen by the people. Lastly, the Pinckney plan used the ideas of separation of church and state and religious freedom. Charles Pinckney's plan also stated the legislature of the United States shall pass no laws on the subject of religion. This idea is shown now in the First Amendment of the Constitution, which states Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion. Representation was granted by the Gate Compromise, a combination of the Virginia and New Jersey plan. Hamilton's idea was correct, but to an extent, but combining them was the best solution. It allowed for both an equal and proportional system that is fair and remains today. These were the plans that the framers took into consideration in order to best represent the people within our legislature.
A reform in the Electoral College should be considered in the 21st century. The Electoral College was established in Article Section 1 of the Constitution, stating that each state shall appoint a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in Congress. However, the representation of the Electoral College can discourage people from voting, since they may feel that their vote doesn't matter. Also, the handful of times the president has lost the popular vote from the Electoral College has created controversy on whether or not the Electoral College truly represents the people. A possible option in place of the Electoral College would be the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, which is an agreement between the states to elect the president by popular vote. Since the U.S. has a bicameral legislature, many believe that the president does not reflect the people's vote. In order for the National Popular Vote Compact to work, enough states will have to join in order to constitute the majority of seats in the Electoral College, and the winner of the National Popular Vote would be ensured to win the election. States will shift the power of the election from swing states to highly populated areas because candidates with a higher number of votes and allocate the power of the election to the majority, not the minority. Our bicameral legislature was created to separate government powers and make it difficult for the government to become tyrannical. And the National Popular Vote would properly select a president who represents the nation, similar to the nation's bicameral legislature. Thank you. We are now ready for your questions.
Thank you. So I want to talk about the Senate a little bit. Do you think it's fair that a state like Illinois has 2 senators and a state like Wyoming has 2 senators? I mean, in a situation where national problems need national solutions, is it really fair to have that kind of equal representation in the Senate?
I do believe that it's fair because we have the House of Representatives is based on population. So I believe it's fair because like other states that are smaller have like smaller representation in the House of Representatives. So we need that Senate to be able to maintain that balance of representation.
Other thoughts about that?
I agree with my colleague, and the Senate focuses more on like monetary issues, and the House of Representatives focus on like social issues.
So actually, that was sort of the point of the question I want to talk to you about, because you all made a comment, and I like the notion that the House of Representatives focuses on some local stuff and the Senate looks at the nation and statewide. I can think of a bunch of senators that I'm not sure have paid a whole bunch of attention to the interests of their state, of their people, that I think they have paid attention, to their future. How do you address that if you are a citizen? Are you clear on what I'm asking you? Not every senator is as idealistic and responsible as you are suggesting that they should be. And my question is, considering that you don't get to vote on them except every 6 years, more than half a decade later, how do you hold them accountable? How do you tell them you're not happy with them then? Let's do it that way.
I think we should tell the House of Representative because, uh, since as my colleague just said that it's like they focus on more like the social issues, they hear us out. So I feel like if we tell them, they could be able to like, yeah, they hear us out and they'll try to like fix our issue that we have with the Senate.
So use the House as the voice to get to the Senate and tell them, why don't y'all pass some stuff and then try and make them respond to it.
Yes, because I feel like that's what the House of Representatives does because they represent us. They hear
Okay.
us out.
All right, thank you.
Do you think members of Congress should have longer terms so they get to know their job better, or shorter terms so they have to be more accountable to us?
I think their terms are good the way they are because as time goes by, the government, like the people start changing. So if we continue to put in new people, those people could like they have more experience in like how our society is now. Does that make sense?
What about something like term limits? I mean, do some members of Congress stay in Congress too long, or senators stay in the Senate too long, and get out of touch with their people? I mean, should we insist that they go back and be reelected and spend some time or spend some time in the community?
I believe they should, as they are required to be residents of the state they're representing. They should be aware of what is going on and have a pretty good idea of like local issues in order to best represent the people.
So I guess I'd like to know, do you think a senator can adequately represent the good people of Cook County and also represent the people of Carbondale or Springfield or what some of the other southern Illinois cities or the I don't know, the counties, the rural counties? Can one senator do a good job representing both groups of people?
I don't think so because they are very different and diverse communities, and many times they don't share the same living conditions or economic status, and they do face many different issues.
So what do we do to make sure that everybody has a voice in the Senate? I mean, because clearly you've made it clear that the House is who solves that problem. You've made that, I get that one. But how do we, because I'm assuming you think everybody in Illinois ought to have some voice in the Senate too. So what do we do about that? Or is it, look, I've told you it's the House. I don't have an answer for that one. I mean, what's how do we do that?
Can you please say the question at least one time for me, please? I'm sorry.
Okay, all I'm asking is, are we stuck with the fact that it's gonna be where the most people are who are gonna carry the day? And if they're in Cook County, then the folks in the southern part of the state are out of luck? I mean, is that really, I mean, is that the answer?
I believe that's what governors and the federal government is for, to be able to hear them out, and so that could go to the House of Representatives. If that makes sense.
Okay, thanks. Bob, you got one?
Do we have too many lawyers in the government?
It is time.
Uh,
Okay,
I would say yes.
good.
Well, thank you. This was a fun discussion. I hope you guys had as much fun as we did. Um, this is the kind of stuff that you're going to be pondering and talking about and thinking about and voting about for the rest of your lives. You've thought about it already. You have a very good foundation in this. You should thank your teachers for the foundation that they have helped you acquire. I thought that you did a nice job characterizing the disagreements in the Constitutional Convention and the alternative platforms or the alternative solutions that were proposed. You brought in the Pinckney Plan, which very few others have brought in. So, and you nicely connected that with the First Amendment. So I think electoral college reform clearly is an important thing. It is, if we could have talked about it more, it's clearly not something the founding fathers thought about because they didn't see the president as a representative of anybody, right? They saw the presidency as kind of this other thing, this quasi-monarchical thing. So, I mean, it was an interesting discussion. You provided a lot of information. You provided us with more questions, and that's characteristic of the best kind of discussion of all. I hope going forward you have a chance to think about and talk about this more. You know, if nothing else, come on over to Juniata College and we'll talk about it some here. Thank you.
So I do want to talk to you about a couple of things, and it's why I kept coming back to the issue of the Senate. The question that I threw at you was one that Illinois has as an issue much more than, say, some other places, in that you've got in the northern part of the state where you all live, you've got, it's not just a lot of people in an urban area, but a whole bunch of people, you know, and between Cook County and the Rockford area, you've got a huge percentage of the Illinois population that has so little in common with pretty much the rest of the state. Now, Springfield is down there and they got a bunch of people in government, but it's very different for them. And so that was what, you know, your answer that says, well, the House of Representatives is who is closest to us, but the senators are for you. So I just want you to have some thought and think a bit about how do we hold senators accountable and make sure that they're addressing our needs also. That's really what I want you to work on for me. And I want you to think about that. I appreciate your efforts to answer the question because, and as Professor Barlow brought up, you talked about, frankly, some rather sophisticated concepts in there that you brought up. And one, the Pinckney one that I hadn't heard before. So I appreciate that introduction of that idea into what we're doing, and good luck to you. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And you did address some really very important issues. You've really clearly been thinking about them, you know, the separation of powers, the division of powers as a way of protecting liberty, the idea of the extended republic as a way of preventing majorities from forming that could overwhelm minorities. And again, the Pinckney Plan, religious freedom, which really are cornerstones of the what becomes the American government. You really are on a very good path to not only understanding this, but helping to teach others how this works. And in your lives as voters, as citizens, as active, involved members of the civil body politic. When my colleague was talking about senators who don't represent their states, I thought he was singling out Massachusetts. We have one senator who actually lives in Maryland and another who spent most of the term running for president. And so that's always going to be an issue, particularly with Illinois, which has also generated people with national aspirations, which on the one hand is great. On the other hand, are they focused on you, which is actually where they should be. I think the one thing I learned from studying the Constitution is the intent was for the governed to be the judges of the governors. And so you are now in that position of being able to evaluate the people elected and make sure they are working for you. So thank you for being part of this program and for discussing it with us this afternoon, and thank your teacher. So thank you.
And thank you all very much.